So thank you everyone for coming to part 3 of our face reading series, specifically in relationships to couples and relationships through face reading. So what we can actually see through people's faces. And one of the beautiful things about couples, we're actually looking at the different styles of engagement, how people relate, and really looking at some of the nuances between how two people show up together. So in this series, we've invited couples to come and join us so that we can give you some insights into what we see. And for most couples, or a lot of couples, when things are going well, things are going well. And usually at some point in time, there's a period where everything's perfect. But then we also have activation periods. And so it's also taking a look at when things aren't going so well, also what some of your styles of engagement may be. And in order to understand that, we're going to be reinforcing what we also have covered in session 1 and session 2, and looking at the face shape and looking at the 3 zones on the face to take a look at how you might process differently to your partner. So personally, I love working with couples. It's a very insightful place for me to work as well. I always learn new things as I'm working with couples because every combination brings different styles of how people respond and react together. And one of the key areas, sometimes when we're looking at how we relate, is actually not to focus so much on the partner, but to also focus on you as an individual. Where do you go when their behavior shows up in a particular way? So sometimes people are expecting to have their partner read, and actually they really find some insights into how their behaviors shape their responses. So we might be touching a little bit on that today as well too. Chrissy, over to you.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for today as well, the part 3, and that it's kind of putting the pieces together. And hopefully, as you watch this and those that are live with us will be able to hear some of the same descriptions of face shapes and zones. So you'll remember and put it into use in your own life as you start to see and notice each other and people in our community and family, especially going into the holidays, to have a different perspective of family members and our partners as well. But I think for me, understanding face reading has really created a space where I can have much more open compassion for everyone instead of just thinking they need to see it my way, which does not work very well. And yeah, I'm excited for today. It'll be fun to talk with each couple. We have a couple live too here, and that's always fun as well to interact in person. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for volunteering your faces and being part of this learning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sean, would you like to add?
Hi, everyone. What I enjoy about relationships is identifying ourselves as an individual and then recognizing where or how somebody else resides and where they're coming from. It enables equality to exist, but it also means that I can respect my own process whilst honoring somebody else's, even though the situation may have its own intensity and our response to intensity.
Love that. Okay, so today we are going to start with Trev and Helen. Thank you for being here with us today. And rather than have everybody look at you on screen, we will put up the PowerPoint and look at you on screen.
Oh, there's a smooth looking rooster in it.
Oh, I like you, Trev.
Absolutely. Now, for people that are familiar with face reading, they learn how to recognize face shapes as part of the training. And we're very much aware that some people find face shapes very, very difficult to work out. So sometimes we're going to tell you the explanation of the actual face shape, but also point out things like, as we look at Trevor, we're looking at an elongated face. So the elongated face belongs to either an oval or a rectangle. So if you can imagine those shapes, those geometric shapes, as we take a look at Trevor's forehead, we're noticing that it very much is an oval forehead, meaning that Trevor has a very open, flexible mindset. As you come down the sides, you'll notice that from the mental zone in the forehead, down into the cheek area, down into the jaw area, it's quite structured. And yet it's beautifully covered with gentle tissue. So what that means for Trev is Trev likes structure, and he is someone who can see the bigger picture with the elongation of his face. So we said open, flexible mind. The structure is one of those areas that help become a building block. So we often see people that like structure, create structure, and also with the oval forehead, having an incredibly creative mindset. As we come down to Trev's chin, we're noticing as well that we're looking at a strong physical from the tip of the nose down to his chin area. So quite a large physical area. So Trev loves hands-on, getting into things, getting things done. And it tells us a little bit about Trev's personality. So from a perspective of face shapes, sees the bigger picture, humanitarian, and does things in a gentle way because the face itself is gently fleshed. It's not tight, it's just nice and gentle. Christy, could you add something in addition to the basic face?
Yes.
Or anything that you would like to say at this point?
Yeah, when I first saw your face, Trev, because of the elongated face and the strength of your chin, what I am aware about of you is that you do get things done, and you're one of those people that cares deeply about matters other than yourself and helping others, and your capacity, which is the wider jaw and the wider chin to do the work required to help others, is very high. And then we see, like Linda said, the soft tissue in the face, which means you bring a gentleness to whatever it is you do. And then I also am looking at your nose, and the nose is a little more broad, which means that community matters to you. And that's very admirable. And I can see that even with your eyebrows and your eyes being part that I'm drawn to, how big your heart is in all these things that you do for other people. And my question would be, and you don't have to answer this, is are you able to take care and do for yourself as easily as you do for others? That seems a little more challenging.
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
You are learning.
No.
The baseball bat helps.
Yeah, no, I don't look after me at all. If someone's going to put himself in harm's way, it's me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that.
We do that to help others. You know, if someone's going to cop it, I'll cop it first.
Yeah.
Self-sacrifice can be very tedious.
Oh, yeah. So's marriage. Yep.
Different.
That's not sacrifice. I've sacrificed myself for.
So you should.
See?
Sean, would you like to read a few things before?
Well, we know about Trev's generous nature, because we can see by the lines from underneath the nose that surround the moustache, the one on the right opens out, and that's your generous nature, that's your generous offerings, the things that you immediately do unconsciously by helping. Just there's a fine line there where if you take from your plate and put it on somebody else's, sometimes there's only a little bit left for yourself, and that can cause a bit of a seesaw effect, where we have a smaller opinion of ourselves, simply because we have less sustenance for who we are. So that's just something that you need to be cautious of, Trev.
No, I'll get to a point where I'll say, I'm done. It can be in any scenario. I'll literally just walk in anytime, day or night, doesn't matter. I go, that's it. I'm out. I've got to go and lie down. The body's wrung out, the mind's frazzled, and I just have to go to ground. And sleep is one of my things. I have to recoup. Because
which is a challenging way to do it. Right. Because there's and if you look at it as if it's a bank account, it's kind of like we then have to recharge that account. You know, if it's a phone and the battery runs down, we have to plug it in and recharge it. So it's a matter of noticing that, change your default setting so you don't necessarily get as run down. So your offering is less, but your self-containment or contentment is more.
That makes good sense. Yep.
Yeah, you need to ensure, and I speak that from experience, by the way, and that way your life will feel more pleasurable and people will still remain grateful for your offerings.
Yeah.
And you'll live longer.
It's true, you will live longer.
So, Trev, with your face shape particularly, what Sean has just been describing is actually typical for people with your face shape, and particularly because it's wider. And so it's wide in the mental, it's wide in the emotional, it's wide in the physical. So there's a really good capacity to spend time in the creative space and the thoughts, to literally be available for others and physically get things done. So where all three zones are wide, the default position can be exhaustion. And it's not uncommon for people, usually around their 40s, to find that they burn out, a little bit of chronic fatigue, exhaustion, because it's like they've got the framework that allows them the capacity to keep on going, but actually the body doesn't enjoy it. And the only way to slow you down, the body kind of goes, right, not paying attention. So it's usually a hard crash. And I love the analogy there. As Sean was speaking, I was getting the feeling as well with thinking of the analogy of a car. Petrol's full, it's running full cylinders, and now it's completely empty. And it needs to be taken away for service to get some more petrol.
Unfortunately.
As opposed to having the default at, a quarter of a tank full, so that it never actually runs out on empty.
Yeah.
Tow truck can get expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And plus it creates that seesaw effect rather than a consistent offering.
Yeah.
Just it'll feel like, Trev, that you have to make a choice between them and you, and that's okay that you sense that. It doesn't mean that you're taking away from them. You're just ensuring yourself. Yeah, you're a living being. You need to ensure yourself first.
It makes, I completely agree with you. It makes perfect sense. There's, I think there's just too much thick bone between me and my brain.
That's probably true. And yet, we all learn.
Exactly. Every day is a school day, as far as I see it.
And we can also see there are many traits about you that are very stabilizing for Helen.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we come across, and acknowledge some of the delicate shapes that are there for Helen. We can see the angular jawline, we can see the triangle that's there, that sense of stability, but also the exposure as well, that emotional exposure. So you're very much her haven in one way or another. It gives her just the right structure for her to be able to perform what she needs and what she wants to perform. So when you go underground, she'll get very distressed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Not because you're not there. That's kind of the reaction, but because of the fluctuating situation where there might be all or then there's nothing. And that's disconcerting for her as an individual. That doesn't mean that you necessarily need to change what you do, but you need to notice the effect that you have just by being you.
Yep.
Because I'm sensitive.
It's
Right,
not an
Helen.
excuse, Helen. It's not an excuse.
It just is.
Yes, correct. It
Yes.
simply is. And that gives you access to emotional information. It gives you access to ethereal information. It enables you, when you're stable, to be able to identify with the unseeable things in this world that also have an effect on us. So that's a matter of the care of the self-care that's essential there. It's nice to have somebody be in service near and around us that create the stability at the same time as you're learning how stability works for you and how to maintain it for yourself.
And we notice the sensitivity in the triangular shape, particularly in the chin. So the smaller chin, that is the sensitivity. Quite often, as we refer to sensitivity, people have been told their entire life that they're too sensitive. Get over it. Stop complaining. So they're not always used to the word sensitivity to be used as a gift. So sensitivity, heightened ability to sense. And when you're looking at a heightened ability to sense, even two people having an argument will be heard differently from a sensitive person. So one person hears it as sound, the other one experiences it as a vibration through the body or a disturbance through the body, which is sometimes why they find it very difficult to be around really loud, disturbing, high vibrational, somewhat passionate people that could come across also being somewhat angry. And yet that could be their default of passion.
I'm curious, Helen and Trev, in your relationship, when there's conflict, Helen, I'm going to ask you the question. When there's conflict, is the tendency for you to shut down as because I would imagine because of your sensitivity, the shutdown, because the intensity of Trev and the steadfastness of who he is isn't going to shut down.
Mhm.
What's the challenge that you've noticed in your relationship of how you navigate that sensitivity within you?
Yeah, like when he's pushed himself and things keep happening, and while he's in the state of like, and then more's coming and has a meltdown, he'll like, nothing will go right for him. Down to opening up a drawer, it'll jam. Everything will just implode. And I'm going, I'm thinking, just breathe, stop, calm down. Because it's like the switch is done. To get that switch back down, it's a difficult period of just being patient and go, he'll come down soon. I'm used to it now.
Oh, it only takes a week or 4.
No.
A week or 4.
Once he gets a moment to go, he goes, I can't, it'll be, I don't know why I do this, don't know why I do that, I don't know, this person, that person, I've had enough. Like he's in meltdown mode, and I'll go, well,
Yeah,
just,
that's the battery's too low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lose
definitely.
confidence.
Yeah.
So I'll just say, like, have a sleep, or like he'll wake up and he'll apologize, and then he'll go, oh, I just can't do this, or then he'll relive it in a
Yeah.
calm way, but still be angry about it.
Till he's
And
been rested.
that's part of being really responsible and feeling like that you need to like literally continue through even when you're exhausted, because people are relying on you, people need you. So that feeling of not living up to responsibilities rather than actually recognizing the human nature that actually needs to recharge and replenish.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter so much because, like, you're more likely to take things to heart. If something goes wrong, if I don't fix that, then something else will follow on that, and it'll all come back to me.
Beautiful.
So that's what happens.
Trevor, Helen, thank you so much. We will move on to the next person. Have you got some insights for today? Beautiful. Hey, listen, thank you so much for volunteering.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
so
you.
appreciated.
We're very grateful.
No worries.
Okay. So here we're looking at flatmates. And these flatmates, we don't know a great deal. We're just going to work on the fact that we know very little about these two people. So we're going to take a look at maybe some of the things that we've already picked up from the first reading with Trev and Helen. And you might already notice that there are some similarities with sensitivity, as well as that more stable, like that solid kind of personality that simply gets things done. So again, we've got three quite large zones, but you'll notice here the mental zone, which is the forehead down to the eyebrows, and the physical zone are the largest part of this gentleman's face. So he loves to think and create, and he loves to action. They're his strongest zones. The emotional zone in the middle, still a good, strong zone. So he's got a very good ability to put things into action. The other thing that I notice is he can be very intense. He's a fast thinker. So his eyebrow to eye combination is very, very fast. And then we come into a different setting over here. Sean, would you like to share what you're noticing with this lovely lady?
Yeah, so what highlights to me first and foremost is that we can see the desire for liberation because of the height of the hairline. We can see with the hairline also too, there's quite a bit of heritage there. There's quite a bit of family experience that's gone on that is constantly in her revision mirror, looking at how she's attempting things and how she's going about her life. Part of the breadth of the face that happens at the top compared to the lower chin space where we see that triangle is that sometimes she may feel as if life is being wielded out of control, or she's unable to maintain traction. It'll feel as if she's being whisked away by what's going on, rather than being able to shift life on her terms. So sometimes she may not feel as if she has as much control in the situation as she rightfully deserves or needs. And that's something that we learn. It's something that also has potentially occurred around her. And so learning how to traverse a situation on her terms is something that will empower her better rather than feel as if power is being taken away from her.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just before we go to you, Christy, I'd just also like to mention as well the sensitivity that I said usually occurring as a child where people don't see it as a gift. As people harness that energy, it does become a gift. But in the meantime, growing up, there can be a feeling of not fitting in and not belonging. And this can be really difficult to navigate because it's quite a reactionary space for a younger person. So not necessarily at the age now. And what we're noticing here is someone who's a very, very deep thinker and feeler. She feels very deeply. And we see that with her eye, particularly on the left. The eye is a little bit more forward than it is on the right. So this lady takes things deeply, personally to heart. And so she's going to be incredibly loyal in the attention of love that she gives. Christy, sorry, over to you.
Oh, no worries. So as I'm looking at these two with the flatmates, I love that, roommates, my brain had to compute a different word.
Oh,
What I see is I'm going to address a couple gifts and challenges. So the gifts that I see are with his forehead being very high and oval at the top, open-minded, willing to hear and accept new ideas, and same with hers. And yet the pullback of, there's a little bit of pinching in the nose and the eyes set back, which the challenge of that emotionally for him would be accepting that there's enough, fill in the blank. That could be enough love, enough abundance in any capacity for him. He's very open to help others and to give a lot. And the challenge that I see in his face is receiving and or asking for what it is he needs. And then I look at her face and the openness of the heart, the widest part of the face is through the cheeks. So for her, I see that it's much easier for her to probably guess what it is he needs and guess what it is he might feel, which could be a challenge and a gift together at the same time. Because sometimes people, whether they're roommates or just in relationship, can struggle with that type of expression. And the two of them together, I think, is a really good mix because of her open heart and ability to express, and his open mind and quick thinking as well. Because it looks like both of them have pretty good boundaries within who they are. The expression piece, I think, is the bigger challenge, and seeing it where both of them can see it in a way that works for them, see whatever the issue is.
Yeah. And on a good day, they're both going to show up beautifully, right? Out of balance, what I see with this lady is that because she is such a loyal person, such a giving person, when it comes to her real personal individual needs, she may think that the other person should already know. Yeah, so she may fail to actually go, this is what I need you to do. And it will feel like I shouldn't have to tell him what he should do because he should actually already know. So yeah, when I'm working with people that have this face shape, it's like, no, you actually do need to ask, even though you've asked before. It needs to be really clear because he looks like if he has clarity, he's going to be very accommodating to what your needs are. But
yeah.
Good directions.
Yeah, he may not understand what your needs are.
Part of the disparity there is I see it as a if we were look at a metronome and there's a pace that he has, which is dunk, 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 dunk. And she can often be a lot faster. And her learning how to moderate that and mediate that so they can both find their rhythm again.
So we're going to throw into the mix Mum.
Her mum, yeah.
So this so mum is the mum of this beautiful lady on the left. And again, as we look at this mum, we're seeing someone who has the face shape of predominantly oval, elongated, sees the bigger picture, potentially works in emotional fields. Widest part is the cheeks, so she likes the emotional side. And yet we notice from looking at her that she's quite intense. She's going to have some very strong thoughts on what needs to be done in a particular way. So when you're looking at a daughter that is really sensitive, there can be a feeling of keeping mum happy and not feeling like it's okay to actually go, mum can have her reaction and her response. I don't need to take on everything mum says as my truth. And as Sean pointed out earlier, there's some conditioning in the hair that we see in the forehead, which basically speaks of the influence of the parents, and the left-hand side is mum. So the parents, particularly mum in this case, the opinion is really important. But so too is learning as an individual. I also have an entitlement to have my own opinion. And that's a learning that people with the smaller chins need to learn. They need to navigate that into their adulthood.
A lot of self-loyalty.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean, and then I'll come in.
Sure. And we can see with some of the deeper shapes that are taking place within mum's face, the right-hand side has more of a rectangular effect to it. We can see that the left-hand side of who she is, which is when you're looking at the photo, it's the right-hand side, but it's her left, is much wider at the back. So she can be a bit secretive at times about what she's doing for herself, and that could often be brought forward and put on the table quite quickly about her commands or needs or requirements. We all respond differently in different ways to how somebody approaches their requirements. Yeah, how they present their requirements.
And when I look at her face, there's a couple things that I'm drawn to. I'm drawn to her eyes and especially her eyebrows. And the level of passion and intensity in her face is very high. You will know how she feels, because it's her expression, it's her experience. You're going to experience her. And I also see that, so this is just a little piece that I notice in her face of a pattern. So sometimes patterns will show up as we age. The pattern that I see, a few puffs under her eyes and a pulling in of the mouth just on the corners. It's probably been a challenge for her to access and express how she feels in a vulnerable way versus maybe being a little more passive about it, or feeling guilty that she has a need that might need to be met within her and not quite knowing how to meet it. And she's learned to do it other ways. I see a very expressive, soft, and open-hearted woman that has been able to be open-hearted to many, many people. And somewhere in her life, it was challenging for her to have that, or she didn't have that, which is partially where some of that intensity comes from. It's a reaction to her experience and over time.
Yep. Defense pattern.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an open door and then suddenly a shut door.
Yeah. It's a good example. And it's quick, and you know it, you feel
Please,
it.
come in, great. No.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to move to our next couple. Christy, would you like to start with this couple?
Sure. So I will start with her face. So as we look at her face, what I'd like you to begin to notice as potential face readers is the softness of her face. When we look at her face, we see soft lines, we see tissue, she has full cheeks. There's no angular lines. When here's his face, we see more angles. So looking at her face, it's elongated, so she tends to have more of a humanitarian view of the world with a very gentle way of putting her thoughts and actions into whatever she is creating or how she is serving humanity. And also, when I look at her face, the amount of compassion that she carries within her eyes and her cheeks is great. And I look at her eyes and the eyelid, how much you can see under the eyebrow and the eyelid. She can tend to have her heart hurt easily, very sensitive, and yet though it is in her nature to hold her center, even in that if her heart is hurt, the learning for her will be in holding her, what's the word I want? Holding her center so it doesn't wobble.
Harmonizer. She's the natural harmonizer.
Yes. And for her to hold that center when other people's are off or getting upset will be her own learning. And that will be her strength as well because of her gentle nature. And then looking at him, I love the differences in the two faces, because his face, we see a very strong jawline, very intense eyes as well, gentleness in his eyes. So for him, with that strong jawline, what he can offer in this relationship is a type of emotional stability, similar to Helen and Trev, like we were talking about. It's like a place that you can just be and know that it's going to be okay. It's kind of an unspoken gift. And the challenge can be very similar too, in that the push in him to get things done, might do his way, could be a challenge as well. So each of these traits hold both at the same time. But I think they're a really good combination together because of the angular lines, the soft lines, and he also has a more of elongated face. So they'll have a lot in common as they're together.
Yeah. And with her loyalty, she may find that sometimes it may look as if he is looking away from her because of how he offers himself to others and shares really openly with others. And sometimes she would prefer that it's just the two of them rather than more. And that's something that she needs to contend within herself and be aware that that his loyalty to her will always be there, even though he's sharing of himself amongst others.
Yeah.
And we see that with the angular line from the nose on his right-hand side. And he also has that beauty spot, yeah? So there's that passion for others. There's that outpouring to others and with others for others.
So I see them as a powerhouse couple when everything's going right, which is probably going to be most of the time. I see their challenges will be when under pressure, that she may not always have a release for the emotions that she takes on from others. And she may still yet need to learn how to clear her system and not bring clients and other people's emotional problems back into her world. And so that is going to show up sometimes. The gap between her eyebrows, as you said, Christy, very much that can be hurt very easily, but also she likes to share her feelings, and he is more naturally solution focused, even though he has this beautiful presence. But out of balance, on a day that he's busy and he's got things done, he is going to want to go straight to solution mode. So I see that taking a breath for both of them at that point in time, for her to actually be with some of the emotions herself and learning how to contain them in a different way, and for him to take a breath and go find that right 5-minute spot where he can just listen before he goes into solution mode.
Mm,
But beautiful couple.
yeah.
They both bring a lot of passion to the relationship. Okay. So they were our people that have shared, and we noticed that there's a few people here that, Lynn, you've got this very handsome man next to you. Did you want to have a little bit of a reading as well?
Together?
Yes, that would be lovely. Yes, that would be really nice. I
So
wanted to sign up, but Al's just had surgery, and so I wasn't sure he'd be up to making it. So yes, we would love it.
Sure.
Yeah, beautiful. So we've just made you spotlight for everybody. Thank you. Okay, so you'll already start to notice, based on what we've covered, some of the similarities in the different faces that we're seeing. And Lynn, for you, I see you as someone who is an incredible nurturer. You create a very safe space for people emotionally. And I can see that by the very healthy condition of your cheeks and the wideness of this area. So whenever I see that, I'm expecting that you'll probably be working in the fields of emotions. But if you're not, you are that for people. Even if you're working in a completely different field, you are the person who looks after and cares for the emotional needs of others. And that incorporates the people that you love and care about. So that is how I see you. It's the very first thing that I notice. And sorry, what your
Al.
Al. Hello, Al. Hi. So again, you've got a dynamic face, also very large. So similar to Trev, you may sometimes have, particularly in the past, overdone things. You've got a great capacity to think, feel, and put things into action. And you're very aware of how your thoughts, feelings impact others. So there's a real carefulness with ensuring that you have correct action, that you consider the effects of others. So it's one of the humanitarian features. We expect everyone to have humanitarian features, but what we're looking at is, will we start to see that humanitarian characteristic in more than one place? And if we see it in 2 places or 3 places or 4 places, it magnifies. So we see that in more than one place for Al. And I'm also reading that you're a really great listener, Al.
Thank you.
Yeah, your ability to receive attention to detail in language, and also relay that back to others. We see that by how your ears present themselves, and that for some creates an amazing trust, because when they hear directly back, without dilution, they're aware of how attentive you are to what they're saying. And that creates very strong bonds, both in business and with friends.
And I'm going to chime in here as well. What I noticed about the two of you that stood out first are your foreheads. Lynn's, your forehead is a little bit smaller the hairline comes down, and we look at Al's forehead and we see the broadness of the forehead. And so how the two of you interact when there is disturbance, I can see that Al will come more from a mental perspective and a strategic perspective, and Lynn is coming full-fledged from her heart. The expression and the language of I think and I feel are very clear. And yet, the other piece that I notice, Al, about your face in that is when we look at your face, we can see almost your entire eyelid and the wideness of your face. Your heart and your emotions are on the surface as well. In the past, you may have tended to come from a mental perspective. And today, my guess is you come from both. The understanding and listening, like Sean said, of what's happening and bringing understanding mentally and then also emotionally is very clear. And your jawline is rounded. We see that curved, very strong, but you're going to come at whatever you do with gentleness. And your intensity as well to get things done. She's like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for joking. I mean,
You can joke, you don't need
Oh,
to
good.
apologize. But it's a beautiful mix, the two of you. How long have you been married?
It'll be 70 years in August.
Wow.
Wow.
So congratulations on that. Both I just see both of you as heartfelt people and really an ability to understand others and probably continually learning to understand yourselves.
Yeah. And
that's
Al, a suggestion for you would be your emotional state doesn't need to be a secret.
Thank you.
Yeah. Feel free to alleviate it out of your body and share it in the environment. It doesn't need to be a secret. Yeah. It'll ease the pressure within you.
Yeah, I keep it contained more often than I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And even as we say that, everybody, did you notice the flesh changed around his mouth and underneath his nose? Yeah, there's a softening that happens because he's now being given permission to feel how he feels.
It's important. And Al, I would imagine that you would have had a lot of people where you were their support.
At times, yes.
Yeah. So that also creates that containment for your own expression of emotions. But yeah, it's really important any age to actually give yourself that permission. Yeah.
Yeah, our organs are very affected by the emotional pressure that's created. So the more that you can allow that to be seen and heard and disperse, the greater space you'll have.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Sorry, I was just reading a comment there. Thank you. Emily just wrote, yes, he should know.
Yes, he should know. Yeah, right.
It's a woman thing.
It's a woman thing.
I
Absolutely.
really do. I hear that so much for many women, he should know. And it's a statement. It's not even a question. Well, he should know what I need. And what I've learned about men in my experience is just give them directions and then they'll give it to you, whatever that is. But they need clear direction.
It's also that we assume that others think and feel the way we do.
Exactly.
And even act the same way we do. And that's not how we actually operate as humans.
No.
where
Just because
where
I
I,
hear my truth doesn't mean someone else can hear my truth.
Yeah.
where I sometimes see it, where I'm working with one half of the relationship, not necessarily two at the same time as a couple, is if I'm working, say, as an example, with a female that's sensitive and feels a lot, it'll be coming up to a birthday and there'll be an anticipation and a waiting. Will he remember my birthday? And will we do anything nice on my birthday? And then inevitably, there comes a place where it's like, and he didn't book a restaurant and he didn't take me anywhere special. And then there's the disappointment that follows.
Mm.
And even though that pattern happened last year and the year before, there's an expectation that this year it's going to be, and part of that is it's not going to be different. The only thing that's going to make that different is, hey, it's my birthday coming up, along with those directions. Yeah.
Rise.
So that you can actually celebrate yourself and create an environment where you're honored. And yes, should you need to do that? Well, maybe you shouldn't need to do it, but you're going to be sitting there going like, why am I not being honored? So honoring yourself in that process can be so important.
Yes, if you don't teach people how to celebrate you, you're left on your own.
Yeah. Make your own reservation.
And it does. It can feel so empty when we're let down on special dates. And you'll notice sometimes when you track back, that will track back to childhood as well, where there was an expectation of the child waiting, and something never happened. So we want to break those cycles. We want to make them about celebrating and you enjoying you.
Healthy cycle.
That's not necessarily about anyone or any comment. That's just a generic comment. So
Well, I think, Linda, it's really helpful because in psychosomatics, in the understanding of our face, to understand that that might be a challenge for you to express or give instructions of how to celebrate you. That's, I think, the key piece is who am I and what do I need and how can I communicate that to myself and others? It just is a different roadmap versus waiting for someone to meet those needs.
yeah.
Yeah, they're silent, waiting it by the bus, and the bus isn't coming.
Yeah.
It gets very lonely sitting at the bus stop.
So socially, I don't usually take liberties with face reading strangers, but there was once I was sitting at a table and these people were on the same table with the same group. I just didn't actually know them. And this lady was speaking about this relationship that just wasn't working and how disappointed she was. And I couldn't help myself. It was basically what we were just talking about now. And I said, look, would you mind if I give you some insights onto a different personality type? And I told her about the feature that she had and said, this is your perspective. And we talked about that because it can be a game changer, just that one little thing, that one little piece of information for people who have that feature and don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize we've got Melanie here with someone as well. So Melanie, would you like to also have a reading? You've got two people there.
You're muted still.
I don't get out much. I have my friends here today.
Beautiful.
Hello.
Yeah. You recognize Shirley Marie and Denise?
Hi.
Hey.
Oh. Do I want my face read? Is that what you said?
Really, we were intrigued. Have you invited your friends just to hang out and have a listen, or is there something between the three of you that you wanted identified?
They're my besties, man. We're just yeah, no, I wanted to invite them because they're both practitioners, and Denise has got her teachers. And it just so happened to be they were coming by tonight, and I said, "Camera's on at 6 o'clock."
That's really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for coming.
That's great. Have you had a good time, girls?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Good.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Cynthia.
Okay.
That's nice to immerse, isn't it?
So before we wrap up and wish you all Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, is there any questions that you would like to ask from today's session?
You're going to book the restaurant?
Or Helen will book the restaurant.
I booked a holiday for my birthday coming up, and I turned and said, right, that's all booked. And I turned to him and said, you're in charge of the restaurant.
McDonald's. I take it to only the best.
I highly recommend choosing a different restaurant trip.
Yeah.
We've done KFC, we've done Red Root, we're running out.
Yay.
I'll
Bit of real meat.
It'll be smooth as Hessian undies. Where we go.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll look forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, I'll fill you in. I've got my checklist going.
Take care of.
Yeah, I've got the key in behind the local Chinese restaurant, so we'll find it.
Oh.
Don't get too carried away with it. Plastic knife, plastic fork. Yeah, okay, I'll stretch to a paper plate.
Licked clean.
I'm not made of money.
Beautiful.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for all of you for volunteering that we're here. And those of you not watching that volunteered, thank you so much for sharing your faces with us.
Think you've been fun.
Terrific. Terrific. I'm going to have to go and widen the door frame to get my ego out there now after all.
Wait till your next session.
And we'll be sending you out, if you want to know more about face reading and how you can learn more about it, we'll be sending you out some links for 2025 of different ways that you can explore psychosomatics and face reading. But in the meantime, we thank everyone who's attended any of our sessions. We invite you to invite other people into them as well. We will be continuing in January and throughout the year with different topics. And this one concludes the 3-part series on face. We will be going into the body, different parts of the body and the emotions that get stored in the body, and also looking at some behaviors as well that shows up as well.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Beautiful.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Yes.
70th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
Sean, can you stop the recording, please, Sean?
That's shocking.